And in this match coming up in the 1987 Goldpin Coca Cola Classic, we have Tony Rupert from Western Australia, his opponent, Ian Hodson from New Zealand. Your commentators are Steve Mackey. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, Alan.
And Terry Wenban.
How are you today, Alan?
I'm well. I'm well. Ian Hodson, having a look at him for the first time, Steve.
Well, we would hope that Ian Hodson is well. He's had a hectic time travelling around the world of late. Of course, this trip to Australia, and he's just come back from Chicago, USA, where he bowled in the World Open there. Not a good opener for him. A little bit light on the head pin, not too many fingers under there, and Terry bowls very quickly, doesn't he?
He does bowl very quickly, but New Zealand, the game's only young over there, and it'll take a few trips like Ian's to go back over there and impart the knowledge that he's learnt, and he'll get better. But he's not too bad, actually. He looks pretty confident.
Well, he bowled very well on New Zealand television to win this trip to Australia. He had 479 over 2 games, but he didn't get it doing those sort of things.
Tony Rupert on your screen now as a public servant with the Western Australian Water Authority. His highest game scores 275, was a member of the winning team this year in the Gold Cup in Jakarta.
And of course, Tony Rupert put out the defending champion David Hardy. He said he had a couple of lucky strikes in that with the interview with you, and had a couple of good ones, but that is not a good shot. He won't be happy with that opening. He pulled the ball high, not relaxed when he let it go.
He's fairly diverse with his interest. He likes drag racing and collecting stamps. Well, you couldn't get any 2 interests further apart, could you?
Something like these 2 pins down there. You don't get 2 pins much further apart than that. And the match after the first frame, both of them opening the frame, and they're both 9 apiece.
Quite a friendly start to the match. No one really doing anything of late. It'll be interesting to see whether Tony Rupert gets away with the shots that he got away with in his last match against David Hardy.
Well, that could have been anything. He left 3 pins in the corner, but have a look at it again now. He almost got 9 out of it. A little bit behind the foul line, Terry. I reckon he's probably another couple of inches further back behind the line than he was before.
You see, he stopped very short of the foul line that time.
And even further that time.
Yeah, but it was a good solid spare.
Ian Hodson comes from Auckland. He's an interior decorator by trade. He's 41, highest score of 277. And this year he took out the New Zealand 10-pin Masters. Likes golf and also likes to go fishing to get away from it when it gets too hectic.
Well, having been to New Zealand a couple of times to do some commentary over there, it's a lovely place, and I guess he'd be a fan of trout fishing over there.
Wasn't too much of a fan with that ball he just delivered.
No, he wasn't happy. He's having a little bit of trouble getting his thumb out of the hole.
Oh dear, he says.
Or words to that effect. Well, both of them spares in the second frame, so we've still got a close match on our hands. 9 pins apiece in the first, both with spares in the second. And Ian working vigorously on his thumb there, trying to get all the perspiration off it. He's got a bit of tape in that thumb hole too, I think, Terry. You might be well advised to extract a piece of that if he keeps on hanging up in it.
Actually, it looks as though his span's a little short. When his ball goes down, he's got a huge gap between his hands.
That's a better shot.
He knew it. He knew it as soon as he delivered it.
Actually, looks remarkably calm, I think. Really, being his first time, well, his second trip here, but being on TV is a bit of a daunting experience.
Back with Tony Rupert, who's bowled in the TV finals of the Geraldton Cup. It's about 400 kilometres north of Perth. They cover it on the local television station up there. And that's a pretty big tournament later in the year in that part of the world. He's left the baby split there, and he's now a couple of pins behind, maybe further if he doesn't convert this nasty couple of pins.
Yeah, we've seen this spare left a couple of times throughout the tournament. No, he didn't really give that one enough. He sort of, I think, played it down the wrong side. He should have been further left and given himself a bit more angle.
And you're watching the 1987 Goldpin Coca Cola Classic, and at the end of the third frame, it's Ian Hodson from New Zealand leading Tony Rupert from Western Australia by 13 pins. Frame, Tony Rupert on screen, 13 behind.
And hasn't pegged any of them back there. Needs to get a few strikes at that stage of the game. 13 pins behind, but that one crossing over to the Brooklyn side. Ten-pin bowling's an exhibition sport at the Seoul Olympics in September next year. We recently had a big tournament final in Perth, as a matter of fact. Tony Rupert took part in that event. It was the Australian Masters tournament run by the Australian 10-pin Bowling Congress. Well, Ian Hodson now in the top of the fourth frame. He's got a strike working, looking for a double. And he's taken a big lead now. 2 strikes working for Ian Hodson of New Zealand.
Yes, Steve, that was a great double.
Yes, tremendous performance, and there goes the 8-pin, the last to go. Well, he'd like to put ahead on this one, looking for 3 strikes now. And he's really rammed home the advantage now. 59 in the third frame, 3 strikes in the last 3 shots.
Yes, he's really taking a bit of a commanding lead at this early stage.
Yes,
Tony opening 2 frames.
He's 23 pins ahead, plus a double working. Tony Rupert up against it. Good for you, Tony Rupert. Yes, he needed that crossover hit. He carried a few of those against David Hardy when he put him out of business in the last men's match. And he'd like to put ahead on this one. Needs a double.
Well, that sounded like a clunk and a throw to me. I'm no expert at this game, but what did he do there?
He really tried to throw the ball down the lane, as he did on the previous shot. He's just trying to throw it harder. I think tension's got in. He knows he's got a strike, and he's not happy with letting the ball go out and come back, so he's trying to point it in. He's just trying to steer the ball.
Well, Hodson's a faster and a harder bowler. Maybe he's trying to pick up his pace.
Yeah, sometimes the opponent's pace does rub off on you. There's no question about that, but that was a much more controlled spare shot, and he covered that beautifully. 76 in the 5th frame, but Ian Hodson, boy, he can be a lot of pins now. He can be as many as 119, 120 odd. It's on lane 16, looking for a 4-bagger. And he's found it. .33 pins ahead and a double working in front. He could be 40 or 50 pins ahead if he can keep on striking. And that will make Tony Rupert's job extremely difficult. Well, he got to the line pretty well. That was a good lot of pin action that he got.
He wasn't as aggressive on that shot. But these New Zealanders, you really can't keep them down, can you? They keep popping up all the time and knocking us off. Something's got to happen here.
Yes, well, they're pretty good at the cricket. We wonder how they'll go in the test matches that are being played. And, of course...
not too bad at the rugby either.
Not too bad at the rugby, the yachting. We usually manage to beat them at golf. But at this stage, the Australian bowler in against the New Zealander, doing it tough. 40 pins behind is Tony Rupert of the West. 76 in the 5th, plays 116 in the 5th. Needs to start a string of strikes, and he needs to start them right now. There's that nuisance value again of the baby split, the pin numbers 3 and 10. Sign of a man trying a little bit too hard to get rid of the ball. Must feel like a lead weight to him, the way he's throwing it.
He really sort of lunged at that one, didn't he? Don't you think?
Not at all the same bowler we saw eliminate the defending champion. Needs to put the ball in between the two pins.
Well, he didn't do that, and you're watching the 1987 Goldpin Coca Cola Classic. And at the end of the 7th frame, it's Ian Hodson from New Zealand leading Tony Rupert from Western Australia by 53. On screen, Tony Rupert in big trouble. He's 53 behind.
Yes, he's in more trouble than Speed Gordon here. Be a great effort to get out of this match. That's what he needs to do, and he needs to do that for the next 4 shots after this one. He's got room for a 193 game. Ian Hodson bowling at a 216 pace. Not only does Rupert have to continue doing this sort of thing, but he also has to hope that this New Zealand opponent goes bad. And Ian again trying that thumb hole again. He's having a little bit of trouble hanging up. A couple of shots earlier on in the game. Got out of that one quite sweetly. Plenty of pin action.
That was a good result from that sort of a shot. He's pretty pleased with it. I think he, you know, Steve, I think his thumb hole problems are due to he's a bit underspanned on the ball, and really should go to a larger span. I can't get over how his hand, he's almost squeezing the holes together.
Yes, I've seen a gap there a couple of times myself, and I think you're right in that assumption. And if he had a better span on the ball, he probably would throw a little more consistent roll on the way down the lane. 52 pins the difference coming to the 9th frame for the Kiwi bowler Ian Hodson. But of course he's been bowling a long time. He started bowling in the UK at the Heathrow bowling centre just near the airport there 27 years ago. He moved to New Zealand. They didn't have any 10-pin bowling over there to speak of until the early 1980s, and he's come back to the game very well since then. And that is the best shot we've seen so far. Let's have another look at this strike. Right in the pocket. That was a very good release. No problems then from Ian Hodson.
Well, I think that brings the end to Tony Rupert. I've never picked this pair up in 23 years, so I don't like his chances of picking it up.
What are you trying to say?
A 4-6 split, the bane of every right-handed bowler on televised matches when they feel the pressure. This is usually the thing that they leave, or variations of it. And Tony has put himself out of business with this one. There's no question about that.
Now, I think it's pretty futile trying to go for that spare. You know, even the 7-10's easier because you can hit it and bounce it off the back. But that you can't pick up at all. It's almost impossible. Very rarely picked up.
Well, Tony Rupert now, all he can hope for is a face-saving 3 strikes in a row in the 10th frame to give himself a slightly more respectable score. And, of course, with the pressure off, one of the best balls that he has bowled in the 2 games so far. Very deep into the hole. Let's have a look at this one. Beauty.
Actually, I think that was the best ball he's bowled at this stage. I think, as you say, if he finishes with 3 strikes, I think he'll be happy. A little bit unlucky in this match, though, I think, with these splits.
Tony won't be pleased with himself after this game. He'll have a look at the score sheet and see where he went wrong. 4 splits in the game. All wide open ones, and apart from a couple of good strikes and a Brooklyn strike, he hasn't done too much. Still, that's the way the game goes. That's the way the pin falls or doesn't fall in 10-pin bowling. and he'll exit out of the tournament in 12th place with that score of 149.
Ian Hodson to finish out.
Well, Ian's going to meet the Queenslander, ex-New South Wales bowler, Tony Roderick, in the next game. And if anyone knows Tony's game, I guess it's Terry Wenban. They bowled together a lot when they lived together in Sydney.
Another great shot by Ian. He's really throwing salt into the wound now. He's going to end up with a good game. He could possibly end up with 235, which will be a great game on TV. And yeah, Tony's up next. Tony's a very volatile player. Can throws an enormous amount of power in his ball and really lifts the ball.
And what about the performance of Tony Roderick in the qualifying tournament the other day at 299, 1 pin off the perfect score? But we're back with Ian Hodson now, looking for his 3rd strike in the 10th frame. And the difference there, Terry, between that first ball and the second ball.
Well, I think that ball just then, yeah, he bowled a lot faster, and he just wanted to get rid of it. I think he knows the match is his, and that's really all he was interested in. So he flicked it through there with his hand rather than bowling the ball.
So Ian Hodson now to finish out the game. He'll have a score of 224.
And victory to the Kiwi, Ian Hodson. He's defeated the Westcott Australian Tony Rupert by 75 pins, 224 to 149. Well, it looks as though we just can't stop these Kiwis at the moment, and particularly Tony Rupert from Western Australia. You're out, unfortunately.
Well, yes, Ian just bowled better on the day.
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough, that's it.
Just couldn't get it together?
No, I'm afraid not. No, just couldn't do it.
Any reasons?
No particular reasons at the moment.
Righto, Tony, you've come a long way. There's $400 from Coca Cola, so the trip wasn't all in vain.
Yes, thank you very much.
The Kiwis keep on winning.
Seems so, yeah.
Good win today.
Yes, I'm pleased with it. I think I've finally got something going between here and here.
Right.
Yesterday I had a lot of trouble getting used to the lanes because I bowl on synthetics over in New Zealand. They are a little bit different from these. But I think I've finally put it together today anyway.
That run under your belt, next time you'll be even better.
Yes, but they're all tough all going your way through.
All right, well done.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be seeing Ian next time when we come back with our Goldpin Coca Cola Classic, because he'll take on Tony Roderick, and that's coming up next.